All right. Hello, everyone, fellow financial coaches. My name is Kelsa, the founder of Fiscal Fitness, my coaching practice, and then also trainer and creator of the Financial Coach Academy. So if you are a financial coach or aspiring to be one, you are in the right place. And if you want any more details, please check out financialcoachacademy.com or join us in our Facebook group for financial coaches called Financial Coaches Unite. We would love to have you. I am really excited about today's interview. So often coaches will say that maybe their practice isn't growing as quickly as they would like, or they're not just getting as many clients as they had hoped. And a big cause of that is prospecting. They're not getting out talking to enough people. They're not putting their message in front of enough people. They're maybe holding themselves back a little bit. And let's be honest, prospecting is not a lot of fun, typically speaking, which is why I'm having Bill on. So Bill found a way to, what I'm saying, gamify prospecting. So he turned it into a game, created a scorecard around it, and we are going to dive into what that looks like today. He has graciously offered to share what that looks like so that we can see it, and you guys can create it for yourselves if you like the idea, but I think it's genius. So Bill, thank you for joining us today.
I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So tell us a little bit about where you're at in your coaching journey, maybe what you did before your journey. I have your bio in front of me, and I just want everyone to know that you are a wicked smart dude, first of all. So your zone of genius is projecting future outcomes through the use of mathematical modeling, which all of us could geek out on that all day long, right? Mm-hmm. I'm just going to read this sentence because I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, he's so smart. So by analyzing the current baseline and modeling the effect of variables over time, he was able to pinpoint highly accurate factory capacity changes and product warranty costs years into the future for some big brands you did this for, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you're taking it down a notch and helping individuals.
Yep. And so, so my background, I used to work for General Motors, Ford Motor Company, Dell Computer. I was the head of global quality for Dell Computer. And then I worked at Raytheon, where I led the quality organization there. And then finally, my last job was at a big corporate, pedigree, ABB, a big power. We made solar inverters. But my thing was, my claim to fame was I was able to create these models and in essence not get surprised. And that's how I moved up into these VP general manager roles, including up to warranty periods up to 20 years in the future. And so what's the failure rate of the product? What is the cost of the materials and the labor, obsolescence of parts? So you have dozens of different product lines. So we had to accurately forecast that because that was a financial disclosure that we had to make. Sure. So I got really good. I worked with, I'm an industrial engineer by trade. So in essence, I'm a statistician. And I started creating these models for capacity and then, for warranty accrual. And then when I left corporate world, I started using it for my own personal finance. And so I came up with these kind of cool models, which was my service. And then, and I'm also a first class of the Financial Coach Academy. So,
yay! Yeah. So tell us how did you go from that corporate Bill forecasting models 20 years in the future for products and service lines and things to financial coaching and Financial Coach Academy, I guess.
Yeah. Well, for 26 years, I moved up the corporate ladder, and then the federal government decided to change something called an incentive tax credit in the solar business. And then there was a dramatic drop in 2016, and I had a P&L responsibility for 306 people, about $250 million. And it went from $250 million down to about 50 million. So that's, and I reduced my staff down to 48, and I was employee 47. So I started to think about what did I want to do next. And so I tried to solve for, honestly, I tried to solve for it. I retired at 51 at that point. And the problem was I did my model and kind of what if scenarios, and I figured out how Social Security works and, how taxes work, RMDs, blah, 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 all complex stuff. I figured out how spending, which is important for the Fiscal Coach Academy. And I found out I'd run out of money in my early 70s, which wouldn't work out for my wife and I, but I did find out.
True.
I did find out, and I was having her work till 65, so I thought that was going to be a tough sell. So I ended up finding out I only needed to make about roughly a school teacher's salary, and we could have a really great retirement. So I started looking for an engineer job. I was going to work 8.0 hours and go, no high stress.
Yeah.
And I started talking to some of my friends, and they're like, hey, that's really cool, Bill. Can you run that model for me? And so I created this LLC called Life Options Arizona. What are your options? And a big part of that was how do I get people to engage with me, right, and learn the processes to find clients and then hold and retain clients in the marketing. That's when the Financial Coach Academy was perfect, right? It was part of that was spending management. So I deal less with people that are in debt. But I have some people, clients that are in debt, snowball approach, blah, blah, blah. But it was really about how do I get these clients?
Yeah.
And that's why, I've read your first syllabus, it was the beta group, and I was like, this is me.
Yay.
I liked it so much, I did it the second time.
I know. I know. We're so glad that you did. And now you are giving back to us by being interviewed on this video. So thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I love what you've done. So you let's just share, like, what did you create? So what did you come up with? And I'll show it in a second, but I really want you to give just the description behind it first.
Yeah, so like a lot of us at Financial Coach Academies, other entrepreneurs I've worked with, we have a great service or product. I'm an expert in what I do, and I'm very confident, and I love what I do, and I think I can make a difference in life. But how do you get the word out? And that is sales. And I'm an engineer, okay? Sales is not my thing. And I tried, I'll be honest, when I first started, my financial coach, Life Options, and then eventually became a financial advisor. I tried doing the LinkedIn. Oh, I got 4,000 contacts. I'm going to send emails out to all of them and reach out to them. And I'm trying to do all this stuff on my desk. I'm investigating Facebook, never end up doing that. But the reality is you've got to talk to people. I think I've heard you, conversations create cash. And so what I was struggling with is I was, just motivating myself to make that awkward phone call, fear of rejection. But I know that the more people I talk to, the higher the probability I'll get a face-to-face, which then will turn into an opportunity. So, and in my head, I always struggled with how much is enough, right? It always feels like I'm 24/7 thinking, I gotta call, I gotta pick up the phone, I gotta go to this networking event. How much is, it's like, it's like kind of unbounded risk. It's unbounded pain.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did is I in essence gave myself an internal scorecard. And I used to do this for big companies. And I created this scorecard to motivate myself and kind of give me an idea of try to figure out what my target is. How much do I need to do in order to be successful, which for me is getting about somewhere between 2 and 3 clients a month. So I created this gaming system. I don't know if you want to show it, but
let's do that. Let's see. So you guys should be able to see that now on the screen. So you can see, maybe you want to kind of walk them through some of these aspects. But so first, I just want to say really quickly, so you were, feeling like you just didn't know when enough was enough. And did I do enough this week or did I not do enough this week? Anything else that led you to kind of create this, or it was really just like, I'm just needing some sort of metrics. I need some sort of measure to know when I've done enough.
It was a combination of motivating myself internally on how to do this, if I'm prospecting enough. It also I needed to know when, you got people you're talking to, but eventually you need new people in your CRM. And so I was finding myself occasionally gapping out, and all of a sudden I didn't have people to talk to anymore. And so I was kind of drifting, and I'd have, 3 people 1 month, and then, 2 months later, 0. And then I have to build it all up. So I wanted to keep myself more consistent. And so that was the manifestation of it.
Yeah, I love it. And so before we dive into the specifics, what has changed for you since you started using this spreadsheet as a tool for yourself?
When I started roughly last September, when I was doing the advising, I did bring some of my financial coach folks over. But from September through December, I had 4 clients. And then I created this at the end of December, and I was just angry at myself, and just, I need to do better than that. So I created it, and I first had it around 40 points in December. And then you see my goal up here in the upper right. And then in January, I boosted it up to 80, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to get 80 points. And you can see I throttled it back down to 60 now.
Yeah.
I went from having 4 clients at the end of December, and I am up to 27 now. I got 2 new ones last week. So
yeah, so that's a huge growth and improvement in less than a year.
Yep. And
yeah,
so
that's amazing.
Yeah, and pretty consistent. I could see when I had a gap month, I was on vacation a lot, and I just kind of, not only that, but I stopped going to network and stuff. And
so let's walk us through, what are we tracking on this? So I'm going to try and point to it as you're talking about it.
So the first section is the, I'll jump over the cold email or LinkedIn. So that first section there is the reach out to people. My whole objective is just get a face-to-face meeting, because I know if I can get a face-to-face meeting, I know I have a fair probability of them becoming a client. So, and I gave myself, you look down just below the point section there. So if I do a cold call email or LinkedIn, very low probability. It's kind of quick to do. But I know it doesn't work really well, so I only give myself a half a point.
Sure.
But if I text an email or make a personalized email or text, I give myself a point. And if I have the guts to pick up the phone, and call somebody, I give myself 2 points. Because it's more difficult. So I'm kind of motivated.
Absolutely. There's more of a mental game there, isn't there? It's like, no, I gotta pep myself up. I gotta get ready for it. Just dive in, right? I love it.
I try to get 15 points a week. 15 points a day and 4 days a week to get 60 points. That's my daily routine. And so if I'm kind of short, I'm like, and I have the option, I could email or I could pick up the phone. If I'm points, I'm like, boom, I'll just give them a call. And then if I'm successful in getting the meeting, I give myself 2 points. And if I also, and a big thing, especially, I kind of noticed that once I got above a dozen clients, and I think it's true in the financial coach, other financial coaches, you start getting referrals.
Yeah.
But referrals don't just happen magically. You've got to have the guts to talk to an existing client, right? And just say, hey, did you like what we did? You know anybody else that I could really help out similarly? Yeah. And so I give myself 2 points for that. And it's all about
for you. I love that. That's so smart, because it's not going to happen. What I find is when you're in business, how important referrals are. So I think we're naturally better at referrals. But I think people who work, a JOB type job or aren't in entrepreneurship, it's, referring is not a normal thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something that they do naturally. So they're not going to think to do it unless you ask.
Yeah. And then sometimes they'll hesitate and and I'll just say, listen, I'll be fine. I'll call them. If you're comfortable, give me their phone number and I'll reach out to them. So you don't have to make it awkward for them. I also made it easy if they want to refer me. I send them an email, kind of pre-made email that they can just kind of cut and paste and forward it to their
so smart.
Friends. I learned that from you all. So the referral reach out, then the next section is, the first section is about, a potential client, a prospect. The next section, the referral reach out and the referral appointment set. This is a referral partner. So that would be a CPA, an attorney. Mm-hmm. I've been at BNI before. I'm in the group now called Trust Integrity. But it's all about trying to find people that may have the type of client, my focus targeted area, and finding those folks and sitting down with them, because they have a Rolodex that I can help out their clients and I can also help them. So it's give and take.
Beautiful. So once you reach out, you get yourself a point, and then if you actually get an appointment set, you get another point for that.
Right. So you can see my stats there. I did 106 right below. I did 106 conversations, pick up the phone, email with referral partners, and I was able to get 47 meetings. So wow. It usually takes multiple times. Sometimes calendars don't line up, and sometimes they ignore you, and so you keep calling.
So the design of this is this spot, the blue and above are all your headers, and so as you scroll down, you add weeks throughout the year. That's locked in, and it's just a formula to total everything up.
Exactly. Totals up the whole week stuff for the whole year.
Yeah, which one of the benefits of this, which is so crucial, is knowing your numbers and knowing your conversions and your own stats, right? So I could tell a client or another coach, all day long that we convert 47%, right? But that doesn't mean they're going to convert 47%. Maybe they actually do better than I do. Or like sometimes it just takes practice, but it's really good to know your own conversion percentages.
Yeah. And then there's a historical story. I'll tell you why I do that, by the way, too. But
okay.
Jovial. But so the next section there is the benefit meeting with a prospect. So that means I've had my face-to-face. So if I sit down with them, I give myself 3 points. That's a big event. And then once they come in, and then sometimes people will sign up. The vast majority want to think about it. Sometimes their spouse isn't there. I'm diving into their personal information, so just kind of a little bit go back and forth.
Sure.
So I give myself a follow-up. So if I've got someone, I've already had the meeting, I've made a proposal to them, right, an offer, then I follow up with them. You can see there's a lot of follow-up.
Yeah, but I think it's so good to show that and to give yourself credit for it, because I think sometimes we have this meeting and then we stop, right? Or, and I think the nice thing about this presentation today or this interview is I think people, when they're starting out, new coaches, they give up too soon, and they don't know how many times to be persistent, or they feel like they're being too persistent. And so they kind of quit. And I think one of the things we're going to be able to show them is, as long as you're getting that feedback from somebody that they're somewhat interested, then it could take multiple reach outs to
and
get that in.
Months, because sometimes it's just not good timing for them. They may have a cash problem in my case, or they're having trouble getting their spouse. And I don't take it personally. It's not, if they don't give me a hard no, it's a still maybe to me, right?
Yeah.
So I'll just keep on calling. And if I feel like I'm annoying them, I'll throttle off. Maybe I'll call them once a month. If it looks like they're interested and they're kind of waffling and they need some discussion about it, I'll pick it up the phone, maybe call them every other day for a few cycles, and then I'll throttle it back.
Sure. So what's this one? Client agrees to join and the proposal is sent. So that's, you get 3 points for that.
Yeah, I give myself 3 points because now they said yes, they want to. I send them a proposal. Now sometimes they start waffling with their spouse again and stuff like that, and then so you see only 25 out of 36 actually finally signed and gave me a credit card, and I was able to process them. And
then tell me about these two.
So that, again, it's kind of like, in the first section there was about the client prospect, and we just went, that was referral partner. It's kind of the reach out, getting to the meetings, right? And then this is the client proposal and closing the deal. This is having a face-to-face with your referral partner.
Got it.
And then the last ones, and I give myself 2 points for that, because sometimes they can, especially if it's like an insurance person or something like that, I can really leverage those folks. And vice versa, I help them out too. And the last one is a network event. So now I'm engaging with multiple people, whether it's a referral partner, or maybe I'm doing a presentation at a dentist's office, or anytime I'm doing any kind of talking or a networking event, I give myself 5 points, because again, that's the most nerve-wracking. Plus I had to spend time traveling there. And so I give myself points, 5 points.
Yeah. So in a normal day, you would, let's say the 24th, you would be saying, okay, I sent out 3 emails. So you'd put a 3 there, or whatever the case may be. You would be totaling this up. And what you are shooting for personally is 60 points per week across all these activities.
Yep.
Which I think it's great, because if let's say somebody has a very consistent weekly networking meeting they go to, sometimes they forget to give themselves credit for that. Right. So it's good to know that, like, all right, I've got 5 points right there if I just keep attending that meeting, but I show up fully too. Yeah. Right.
Now I did evolve this. If you go to the left, you see that new prospects or referrals received. So that's not in the original version I created last year. Yeah. And what happened was I started doing this. I was calling all the people that I had, and I'm sending emails, and eventually I found out that I wasn't adding new people to my CRM. And so I was, I'll do like 8 strikes before I give up with somebody. But, after a few months, those 8 strikes, even though I might have 40 people in my, CRM, they start to fall off. And so what I did is I added this new prospects, how many new people did I add to my Rolodex, right? Or not Rolodex, but old school, but to my CRM. And then how many referrals did I get from like a referral partner or from one of the clients I reached out to?
Sure.
And so whenever I add somebody to my CRM, I add points over there, because I know if I don't, around 5 is what I shoot for a week. I know that eventually I'm going to dry up. Now, sometimes I do a lot of planning and it's real labor intensive. Yeah. And I just can't, I'm not in a situation. Sure. Well, recently what I'm doing is, like, I just went to a network event last week, and I said, I'm walking out with 2 cards that I'm going to put in my CRM. So 2 viable leads. And so now when I go to a network event or a referral, I actually kind of put in my head as, like, I got to get at least 1, it depends on the size of the thing.
Sure.
And so I know it, because I know if I don't fill that in, all I'm going to do is I'm going to create a hole.
Yeah.
It may not happen next month, but 2-3 months down the road. And then all of a sudden my leads dry up and I'm starting from scratch again.
Yeah. So, and I just want to point something out to people because I want to illustrate how we like to geek out on spreadsheets is you have your weekly target up here. So 5 new prospects in a week and 1 referral received. And if we scroll down, green means you hit your target and red is like, like failed, you didn't get it. So here, yellow, I guess, I'm not sure yellow means caution.
I did something. I should really move that conditional formatting up to like, a 3 probably. Leave it red at 2 and then go to yellow 3 and 4.
And then same over here with your weekly point target. You've got your conditional formatting. So like if you don't hit it, or you kind of exceed it. And again, I think what we're looking for is patterns. And like you were saying that you don't experience a month where you don't do any of this. And I think when you and I were talking about the system, one of the benefits you had described was consistency. And not just consistency with your own effort, but consistency as far as like 3 new clients starting a month and then 2 the next and 3 the next. And it's never like 5 one month and 0 the next.
Correct. And I can't handle that, by the way, because the planning is so intensive. If I try to get 5 in a month, I wouldn't be able to. I would suffer. My work-life balance would change, or I would have issues with delivering, quality products. So I got to do something to kind of keep it in what I'm doing kind of in balance. And then the process helps me do that.
Yeah. I also like how it's flexible and structured at the same time. So, you've got your points that you need to try and hit, and that you've got to spend time every day sort of focusing on it. But one day you could decide to do emails, and then the next week maybe you feel like you don't mind picking up the phone that week or whatever. But it's like you've got some flexibility in there, and yet you've also figured out how to score it so that the more painful activities you get more points for.
I get better rewards.
Right. Yeah.
Now, one thing I did do, I learned is that like doing the phone calls, I learned that doing the phone calls, it's better just to crank them all out one after another. The hardest part is just starting that first phone call. Yeah. It's awkward. It may be rejection, sometimes they don't pick up. But it's just, what I'll do is I'll get my CRM out and I'll be honest, sometimes I do the easy ones first. I'll do like the emails and all that. Yeah. And then I kind of say, okay, these are my calls. These are 5. And I just lump them all together. And you would think, I need an hour to do this. Once you start getting into the motion, those 5 conversations, I'm done in 20 minutes, right? Yeah. Not even sometimes. And I get through all that stress that I put myself to start. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, good boy, Bill. You got 16 minutes.
It wasn't so bad once you do it, right? Well, and don't you find that once you're in a groove, you're like, okay, I'll just keep going. You have to set it out to be like, okay, I'm just gonna do 5. I just get through these 5, right? And then after you get through 5, you're like, all right, I'll do 5 more. It's not always so difficult once you get going.
Yeah, so that tends to work out. So that's one of the process improvements I made. I used to try to, put spaces in like, 30 minutes here and there. I do what's called a jam session. I'll do it typically in my prospecting. I do a 60-minute jam session 4 times a week. So think about it. I'm spending only about 40, 8 hours of my week on sales prospecting. Now I'm doing other stuff like driving and all that, but sure. I got it down. It's made me more efficient because that's great. Well, and
I think too, like there's when you can be focused, it's easier to get to work. Where if you first have to think about what do I want to do and should I call or should I email or what should I do to prospect, it takes forever just to come up with a plan so that you can then work the plan. Where at least with a spreadsheet like this, you kind of know here's what I got to tackle first and second. We're going to get to like what's a typical day for you like when you're doing this. But first, a question that I have for you is, talk to me about some of the variations or some of the things that you've tweaked about your spreadsheet or your Gamify, like since you started, just because I want others to hear that they can do it their own way, that there's some variations that they might want to employ.
Yeah, so some of the things I added, so for instance, the new prospects referral received, that was a gap I found when I wasn't getting new names into my CRM. The request a referral from a client. So when I first started that, I didn't have that in there either because I was like, you know what, at that point, I probably added that April, May timeframe, because at that point I had taken people through the whole process and they were really happy with what I had. And I'll be honest, I was very passive about it. Oh, I hope that next meet, I hope they'll tell me about one of their friends, or maybe their parents, retirees or something like that. And then I just, you know what, I just gotta, you gotta be forward about it. So I added that in, and I gave it 2 points because, that's an existing client. So I have a fixed audience. So I added that in there. I've changed some of my points, I bumped up the networking. It used to be a 4, now it's a 5. Again, I'm just trying to drive that behavior because they are time intensive, and again, it's awkward talking to a whole bunch of people.
Well, I think the more experienced you get at networking, maybe the more valuable they are, right? Like you can actually convert from them better when you've been doing it for a while and you know the right things to say or the type of people you want to try and talk to, where at first you're just sort of guessing. So maybe they're not quite as valuable from a prospecting standpoint.
Yeah. The other thing I add is that comment section. You notice those codes, that row, CLM, ERA, and all that row up top. So I found myself sometimes I was on a roll. Oh God, how did I count the right number of people?
Yeah.
So I do is every time I call somebody or pick any one of those steps, I'll go into the right and I'll just put the step I did and the name of the person.
Right. So typically you would have last names or something over here for your own notes, but
yeah,
you just removed them for this. For our purposes, which was very smart of you.
Yeah.
But normally this has some people's names in it and that kind of thing, right?
Yep.
That way you're tracking it. And I think you had changed your points, like the emails and stuff, or the cold things you had lowered and the phone calls you raised, or.
Yeah, it's the cold calls. Actually, the calls has always been 2, but the cold call or LinkedIn, it used to be a single point. And I felt like I was cheating because I would do like 20 email. I had this script to engineers at Honeywell. And so I would have this little script and I would send them an LinkedIn's messenger. And I get 20 points and it'd take me like 10 minutes. So first of all, it's not a high success rate. And I kind of felt, dirty, or I was cheating. So I knocked it down to half a point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's smart. Yeah, no, I think that it's just so cool. And I would think too, like you kind of know, that our job is to lead a client through the process, right? Like we sometimes think that they know what the next step is, but they don't know, right? Like they don't know, do I sign a contract or what do I do with this type of thing? So I think it's really smart that you've continued it all the way through, not just like, oh, I've got the meeting with them, so I'm done, right? There is still part of that conversion that happens after that, where we're inviting them into the process long-term.
Yep. And it's a reminder to me, again, you can see I get 2, 3, 3. I got a lot of points up in that little quadrilateral circle there. So I am motivated.
Well, you've done so much work up until this point. It would be terrible to like abandon all that work, right?
Yeah.
We put in all this effort up here and now all of a sudden we're just letting it die.
Yeah. And that's where the money is. And again, some people just aren't ready at that moment. They love the service I can provide. They're just not ready at this moment. So
I think that's so smart. Let's see. Okay, let's dive into a day in the life of Bill and his prospecting. So start to finish, how do you tackle this part of your business?
So I typically put an hour, sometimes 90 minutes. I do it 4 times a week. And that's usually, I tend to shoot for 3:30 to 4:30 I kind of learned, it seems like people they're so busy with the meetings and whatever happened the day before in the beginning of the day. And I just wouldn't get the people picking up the phone. And so what I do is I do most of my work. I block out physically on my calendar. It's called 60MJ, 60-minute jam session. And I block it out. It's already blocked out on my calendar. And I got the time set aside. And then what I do then is I get my CRM and my CRM. So I don't use that spreadsheet to track, the sequence of things I've done with that prospect. So I have a CRM, and you can use Pipedrive and some other tools, but I just go ahead and put their name in there, and then and I'll do a email, right? The first introductory email. Hey, who I am. Hey, would you like to meet? Do a session with you, or sit down, have a Zoom call. But I will go ahead and I will send an introductory email, and then I close that out, and I'll put a reminder in the CRM says in 2 days I'm going to do the next step, a call.
Mm-hmm.
And so I close that out. I give myself a 1 in the email section, so I get 1 point. And then I use the CRM to just, I pretty much will have a list about that long on my CRM just about every day. And if I don't get a hold of them, I just say left a voicemail or hung up, and then I will push them out a few days, and I just repeat that routine. If I see myself, not getting enough points, I will go ahead, and I know I could do an email, but I think I'm going to make another phone call. Yeah. That's one of the things I discovered, by the way, when I added those new prospect or referrals received section, was because I would get to the end and I'd be like, wow, I only made 8 points. I'm like, and I have there's no one left on my CRM to call. I would actually start going a few days ahead, trying to find out people who are out there. And that's when I discovered I'm in trouble.
Right.
That's why I got to get new names into the CRM.
Right. Absolutely. So you email, call and leave a voicemail, call and hang up, then
send
email
an email
again.
Sometimes if I know I have their cell phone number, some people are texters. So I'll say, hey, just trying to reach out to you. And then I will, kind of repeat that, email, voice, hang up, voice, email. And my usual routine's around 8. I'll give eight tries. And then at that point, if I have no indication that they want to talk to me, at that point, then I'll close them out on my CRM and then move them out.
And I want to make sure that we're clear about this, that you've got like an 8-strike rule, which, so you're going to reach out to them 8 times. And that's if you are getting completely ghosted, right?
Correct.
So 8 times. If someone says, no, I'm not interested, you're not going to keep reaching out to them 8 times, right?
Right. Yeah. I'm irritating them at that point. I'm wasting my own time.
Right. But also if the person is somewhat interested, you might reach out to them 20 times. So I want to show them an illustration of this, right? And I agree with you. If someone's just completely ghosting you, I kind of lean towards like, all right, on to the next person if they're completely ghosting me. But if they're genuinely interested and they're just busy or, life is getting in the way or something, then we're going to keep trying as well. So this starts back here on January 19th. And it took until June 28th, but we can see, I didn't count this, how many steps there were.
It's 20 steps. I took the names and all that.
Reach out.
That's a real snapshot, by the way, from my CRM. Yeah. I just removed names from it. So that's the actual steps I took. And it was, but you know what? She seemed interested. And
yeah, well, this is where it's like met at a networking event, would like a reach out in a couple of weeks. So that's, they're giving you a timeline. So you reach out, spouse is sick, wants to meet, ask me to call back. So, okay, yeah, I'll call you back. Called, voicemail was full. Isn't that always an indication, Bill? Yeah. Like when someone's voicemail is full, you're like, I'm going to have to reach this person a different way. Like they're ghosting a lot of people right now, not just me probably, right?
Yeah. Then they were sick, right? Okay. But they're still interested. Then I texted them.
Yeah.
So say your voicemail's full. What choice do I have? So now I'm texting them.
Yeah. Seemed very interested and wanted to think about it over the week, which is also pretty normal. Sent follow-up email summary and sent the DocuSign, called and left a voicemail, called and definitely wants to proceed. This is like, 3 weeks after they said they were interested, right? Tied up with a major work project, call next week, sent a text, called to see if still interested. Definitely yes in the next few weeks, right?
It's always the next few weeks.
I know. Let's see. Sent a follow-up email. Called, no answer, hung up, texted, got a response, maybe July. Which I will say, Bill, you closed them in June 28th. So,
2 days ahead of July.
Right. You were like way ahead of schedule. No, I'm just kidding. Called at 8, agreed to set, so this is where it goes to show, like, it's not always a rule that we can follow. It's not always the same for everybody. Sometimes we're going to reach out 3 times and the person's, totally bought in and excited and they're taking action. And other times it looks like this, right?
And again, and those are quick, right? And it doesn't take me forever. It's like, oh my, that's so many notes and stuff like that. I mean, it literally, each one of those is about 10 seconds of a, quick little type. Because I need that to know what my next move is going to be. If I didn't write that information down, I probably just keep on trying to call I wouldn't be able to remember what happened a week, 2 weeks ago, because I'm doing dozens of these.
Oh, totally.
So this keeps me on track and kind of gets me, to keep on, never give up, just keep on punching the bag a different way, and you'll find a way to finally reach to them and get a yes or no. But I just want one or two.
I think it's so important when, if our ideal client is not someone who's in a crisis situation, then we're putting work on their plate when it doesn't feel necessary or like crucial, right?
Yep.
It's a want, but it also has to fit in and complement their life. And so it's easy for them to like keep putting it to the back burner over and over and over again. And it's not because they're not interested. It's not because we're trying to pressure them to do something that they don't want to do or anything like that. They really want to do it. They're just busy people, typically busy professionals. They've got families, whatever the case may be. And nothing in that moment is really wrong, right? So it's not like they need to fix it or else. It's just they want to do it, but it's also not urgent. And a lot of people nowadays are just focused on urgent, like whatever is most urgent, right? So
I'll tell you, a lot of times I'll get someone that'll say, "Thank you so much, Bill, for following up with me. I really want to," and they're grateful for, and it's shocking. I'm like, it gives me a little, it's like, it was awkward for me to make the phone call, but then they're like, "I'm so glad you annoyed me." That you followed up, because it's something I want to do, and just if you didn't follow up, this would have just gone away, like so many other things, priorities in folks' lives.
Yeah, and I know you have a goal of getting so many clients, and at that point it'll be sort of very sustainable and that kind of thing. So, do you foresee this being something that you do as you're building your business? The spreadsheet, do you see it being like you might change in the future? What are your thoughts on the future of this game that you've created for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain capacity I'll have on the sustaining, so I'll need less, I'll need to do this less often, right? And not only that, but I'm starting to get a higher percentage of referrals just naturally coming in.
Right.
So, at this point, I'm about, maybe 35% of where I want to be. So I'm going to continue this probably until probably when I cross the 50 threshold. I may still continue it. It's just I won't have to. You saw what I do with my points. I started off, I was 40, then I went to 80, and then I throttled it down to 60. Because when I was at 80, I got like 3 clients in 333.
Right.
It was actually 334, I think it was. And I was trying to do 12 planning projects in a month, and it was just because it's a 3-month process for me, and it was just too much.
Right.
And so I literally throttled back to 60. So what I'll probably do is I'm getting closer, I may start throttling that down to 40, down to 20. And I also, by the way, I have my own little game. I'll show you another time. I have my own gaming for my ongoing clients, right?
Oh, you do?
And so how do I make sure that I keep them on? Because sometimes they'll miss meetings. I'm sure it happens with your business too, right? You set up a meeting, although you have that penalty, they only allow one excuse.
We're pretty strict,
So in fact, I probably need to do that, by the way. I just remember something I learned and I forgot. It's one of those things.
Yeah, and you can always make exceptions. That's the thing, is we have very strict sort of policies in place. We do make exceptions when they're needed. So, I have a client, she's been working with me for probably 8 years. She like never cancels. And so when she does, I know that it's for a good reason, that it's not something she's doing sort of willy-nilly or like without thinking about it or anything like that. So she's one of those clients where it's like, yeah, she probably gets to a year, but I don't count necessarily. It's just something that I know out of respect, she's not doing it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But the policy is there, so you can enforce it if you need to.
Yeah.
So.
And I'm thinking, if I was going to, and at my stage of life, I've decided that I just want to be a solopreneur. So that's my personal decision.
Sure.
But if I was going to go ahead and expand and get more, advisors on, and coaches on my team, then this is a method I would use as a manager, and that's to help hold them accountable, right? Are they really hitting their numbers? And then, part of give them some coaching. And so, and I want them to be self-directed. I want to be, have constant oversight on them, right? So this would allow them to self-manage themselves and give them targets.
Absolutely. I love it. What are some tools and software that you recommend or that you really like that is helpful?
In general, I think for the kind of business we're in, it's I need the client has to be able to set up a meeting on my calendar, right? So We use Calendly. It seems to work very well. There's an Acuity, and there's several types.
Oh, there's so many. Yeah.
So and a relatively
scheduling software.
Yeah, it's like $7 a month.
Yeah.
But you have to have a place for them to go to set up a meeting and change meeting and etc. Number two is a CRM. So we use in the financial advising world, Redtail I would not recommend it for.
We use Active Campaign, really like it, but it is quite robust, which works well for us. But I didn't have it for the first probably 6 or 7 years, and it was fine. You can use just a spreadsheet when you're first starting out, possibly, right? If you're good at spreadsheets when you're just starting out. Yeah. And then at some point, I do believe in the power of having a CRM the busier you get, for sure.
Yeah, before I became a financial advisor, when I was doing more of my financial coaching, retirement planning stuff with the LLC, I used Pipedrive.
Oh,
which was really good because you just put the name down and pretty much like that snapshot you saw, that was from Redtail. But if you looked at my Pipedrive when I was doing financial coach, more pure financial coaching, it would look very similar.
Great.
And it's cheap. I think Pipedrive's like $6 a month.
Yeah.
And the last one I use probably always, which is weird, is my what they call Apple Memo, and I just go ahead.
Notepad on your phone.
On my notepad on my phone and on my PC. So the common letters I'll send to a single person or to a couple or a follow-up, hey, welcome on board, email. I pretty much, I used to go back and cut and paste from my old email, right? And I said, this is silly. So I just put them in easy sortable and searchable on my memo pad. And I cut, paste, and, I put XXX where the name is. And that seems, it's instant, efficient booster. I know there's other things folks can do, especially if your business is bigger. But I mean, I'm constantly going. I always have the memo pad.
Well, yeah, and sometimes simple is really best. Let's be honest, right? Like we don't need this big cumbersome thing. There is a software. You and I were talking about it called Streak, STREAK. It is like a plugin that downloads with your Gmail. So if you're using Gmail or Google Suites for your email. And it allows you to create what they call snippets. So a snippet is like a template, but you can just type in one word. So like welcome 10 or prospect 1 or something like that. And when you type that into an email, it automatically populates the template and it even populates the subject line of the email. So then you still have to go and type in the name and, that kind of thing like you're saying. But for the most part, it's pretty groovy and it's free. Or Notepad, Memo, anything like that where you're just copying and pasting is great. Don't retype the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it makes it more consistent and it's efficient and it's also keeps it. Now I don't have to have that thing in my head or remember the last client I sent that to. It's just I know exactly where to go every time.
Yeah,
it's a reach out to a couple. Yeah, and boop, click.
Yeah. So we've got Apple Notes or Notepad, Memo, whatever it's called, a CRM, a scheduling software. Yeah. And then do you use Zoom or do you do virtual in person? What do you do?
No, so the planning meetings, my initial meetings are usually face-to-face. They seem to be, you're dealing with real personal stuff, whether it's, the debt issues or their finances. Sometimes I know you've had this where the couples don't necessarily talk.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Everyone gets along beautifully and it happens.
Yeah, but once I get past the initial, I call it the data collection, you got to gather all their information, right? It's kind of the process very simple. You got to gather all their information, then you understand what their objectives are, right?
Right.
And then you put together a plan for them, right? And then you hold them accountable, right?
Right.
When I get to the accountability section, I meat usually with my clients once a quarter. The vast majority of the time I do Zoom calls. It's easier if they're working, at a corporate job, then I can do it at night. It's not an issue. So Zoom is my number one go-to. It's free for less, as long as and I do one-to-one, right? I don't do multi-Zoom. So Zoom is free for 40, actually it's unlimited, 40 minutes if you have more than one person on screen.
Right. Yeah. Are you also doing a lot of one-to-ones and referral partner meetings through Zoom, or are you doing those in person?
The vast majority of my referral partners actually in person. It's interesting. I probably could change that. I don't know. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
most of
I
it's been face to
started,
face.
well, I'll let you know how this ends up turning out, but we started probably last quarter, I think it was, where the initial one-to-one is done virtually. And then sort of if we hit it off, we'll meet for lunch or for coffee or something in person, or I'll go to their office or something. But it certainly does cut down on time in the car. And, you know, if you're buying a coffee every time you meet or something like that, or if someone's running 10 minutes late, you know, you can't get anything done sometimes. So, and not all of them are worth doing another meeting for, right? Like they're just not all amazing referral partner sessions. So
Yeah.
it really has cut down on that too, which is
Yeah,
good.
I like that idea because that's not only the reduced drive time, but it's also just the scheduling conflicts, right? So
Absolutely.
if you can Zoom call, it's so much easier because I'm trying to meet with a retirement specialist down in Gilbert. Right? Okay, what day? I'm down in that area, Southeast Valley. Pretty much every other week or so. So then, and of course, the Thursday I'm down there doesn't work for them.
Yeah.
I can do a Zoom
Right.
call, right? Yeah, so I might do that. It's super
Yeah.
easy too.
We call it, I call it the virtual introduction link.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the appointment type. It's called virtual introduction. And it says like, this is a great way for us to talk, just to get to know each other to start, super easy to schedule. Like the way I word it, I think is conducive to the idea of like, hey, if we need to meet in person, we can do that. It's just, let's start here sort of thing and make it easier on both of us kind of thing. And it's gone fine. It's gone really fine. So I'll let you know, as we do it longer term, how it works out. But so far we haven't had any pushback really. So
Excellent. I might give it a try too, especially
okay,
once
good.
it takes like 3 tries, whatever my referral. It's 107 reach outs to get 48 appointments with a
Right.
referral. So maybe I'll get my batting average up.
Yeah, you might be able to get some of those meetings scheduled a lot faster. So,
Yeah.
okay, anything else that you want people to know about prospecting? Anything that you've learned through this journey?
Sales, every entrepreneur I've worked with, and I'll be honest, I started out my website when I started my financial company, Life Options Arizona. I was like, it's go live, right? It's like back in corporate days, you get the big go live of the web page. The calls are going to be coming in. No, it doesn't happen that way. It is awkward. You got to touch people. You have to have the conversations. And the funny thing I told you before is my roommate one of my roommates in college. He was really geeky dude. And so he would go up and we go to parties and stuff like that. And he would tap on their shoulders, ask them to dance, knock down. He was like 4'8" maybe. And he's kind of greasy hair and all. And he would keep on doing this like Bernie. His name was Bernie actually. And he's like, Bernie, dude, what's going on? He's like, I don't know, around 180. After I get knocked down 180 times, I usually meet a really good girl and have a good time. And he was
I mean, how inspiring is that though, right? Like I get rejected 5 times in a row and I'm like, oh, my ego is like,
crushed.
yeah.
And he was motivated. He's like, yeah. I was like, he's like, Bill, I'm up to 160, man. I'm almost there. I'm like 2 weekends away. So I'm just like, wow. I mean, so he turned this negative, awkward thing. And so, but in the end, it's how many people you touch mathematically, and that's all I am is math, right? So mathematically, it'll work. And so now it's like now I don't get frustrated when I get, I'm up to, call it 80, 90 points in a month. I'm like, okay, I'm
bound to get, have some outcome.
I'm mathematically, if it doesn't happen that month, it's just because some of them may have slipped into the next month. And that's what happened last. I just got 2. I'll probably get 2 more next week. So, cause I got, when I know when my face-to-face pipeline is full, next week, like I'll have like 3 of them. Yeah. And I know that I've got a fair probability getting a 2 or 3, cause my hit rate's about 50-50 once I do a face-to-face.
Sure. Yeah. Well, and I just love this because I think one of the things that we teach in the academy is how important it is to have conversations with people. And of all the social media options out there, and we do so many of them, we have a podcast, we have a Facebook page and a Facebook group and Instagram and all these things. They are all meant to be supplemental to the conversations we're having on a regular basis with prospects and with referral partners, right? They are never meant to replace that effort. The majority of our clients still, till this day, despite having all of those things that are like quite popular and like we get a ton of downloads on our podcast and all of that, still till this day, 80% of our clients are either client referral, so other client, or referred by a referral partner.
Yep.
80%. The other 20% is all the other options, you know what I mean, combined. So it's still just having those conversations, letting people meet you in real life and engaging with them, talking with them, meeting them where they're at, you know, and building that rapport and putting yourself out there, you know, like you were saying. It can be awkward and it can be strange and some days where we don't want to do it, but.
And it gets easier. I mean, when I first started, it was so awkward. And I mean, I would literally hem and haw for 90 minutes before I would pick up the phone. I'd find every excuse not to do it, right? Oh yeah, you know, I can modify this model, make it a little more efficient. But you know, after you do it for 3, 4, 5 months, and anybody who's newer financial coach, it gets easier. Yeah. You just gotta get through it, and then also know, hey, am I on track? And that's why I love the gaming that I came up with. It's like, hey, am I really on track? If I have a bad month of sales, all I have to do is look back at the previous month, and it's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of reds and yellows. Right?
Yeah. I love that it eliminates the unknown, right? Yeah. Like, was this my own doing? Was it sort of my own fault? Am I doing everything right? And, you know, where can I tweak? Like, you kind of find like, oh, I get better conversion over here, so let me spend more time. And it gives you a way to focus on this area of the business, which is hard to dive into, right? So it gives you that focus and helps you to focus. And I just love it. So we're going to share with people, I'm going to upload the PDF of your spreadsheet so that way they can create it on their own using their own targets, their own tasks, their own metrics, and that kind of thing. If they want to do conditional formatting with red, yellow, and green, or bright pink and bright purple or something, I don't know. They can do whatever they want, but the idea is that you're going to give them we're going to give them the image of it, right? And I think that that's really a smart way to do it, because otherwise what's going to happen, we give them an Excel, and then if it starts to break and then they don't know how to redo it, it's really important that they just kind of create it on their own. Yeah. And then tell people kind of where they might, you know, find you, or what are you up to these days, and so that they can say thank you to you for this awesome resource.
Well, I am on Financial Coach Academy's Facebook page, so that's probably the best way to reach out to me. I don't go on Facebook as much as I used to. I've taken October as like
a hiatus.
I've taken a break from that, and I don't want to watch news anymore, so I've kind of, you know, got a little more efficient with that. So I just decided to take 30 days off. So,
you know, I'll tell you, Bill, I think it was in January, I did a hiatus from a cleanse from the news. Yep. And I started it, and then I found that like there were all these ways where I was actually getting the news without realizing it. So then I had to stop those, because it wasn't just like sitting and watching the morning news while I drank my coffee. It was like, oh, on my news feed and the apps and just all this, my Reddit feed, like all this stuff. And so I did it for 60 days. I told myself I had to do 60 days. Because I knew, again, it was like 2 weeks in and I was still seeing the news because of how all these ways I was getting it before, right? So I knew it had to be like 60 days, knowing that it would probably be a solid 30 without actually seeing the news. And I feel healthier. I feel calmer. Like, I think I'm more rational. And here's what I know. Here's what I know to be true. If I need to know about it, I will hear about it. Like really, if it's something big, like I have enough people, I'm active enough, and I have enough conversations, I get out enough that I will hear about it if I absolutely need to hear about it. Otherwise, it's probably just depressing me.
Yeah. And that's, I'd say I'm 3 weeks into it, because I went cold turkey on October 1st. So, and I tell you, my mind is so much free. And by the way, I found time. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I found, you know, because that stuff just kind of consumes you sometimes. You're reading all the comments and
oh my gosh.
So,
yeah.
So I've had more time. I mean, I'm on a roll this month, you know, with my points, and just I'm actually reading books, you know, some books now, some, you know, personal development, some financial books and stuff. So yeah, so I'm enjoying it. Yeah. So, but reach out. So in about 8 days, sorry, more than that, whatever, 12 days or so, I'll be back on the Financial Coach Academy, finding a page with Facebook page. So that's probably the best way to and reach out to me.
Good. So we can always tag you. We'll post this video in the group as well. We'll, people can tag you if they've got questions, but also I did want other coaches to know that if somebody could benefit, you are an expert on, we kind of joked about your long-term mathematical projections, but in all honesty, you're an expert on the retirement side of things when it comes to Social Security, parents' money maybe. So if the coach has a client in that way that could benefit, then that would be a great connection for you.
Yeah, Social Security, depending when they time is, if they're married, there's lots of different variables, but it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars of net present value just by, deciding to choose at 63 versus 70, and depends on age differential and income differentials. And the government did not make it easy to figure out. So I have some tools that I use. So folks, situations like that, or parents, if they have, parents and stuff like that, heading into retirement, there's a lot of work I can do to help them get prepared for it. And pretty much they get a cash flow of their income, their spending, and their investments for the rest of their life. So that way they have clarity. Are you going to run out of money, or are you going to leave a pot of the gold? If you have parents, you want them to leave a pot of gold, because that way they start sharing it earlier, maybe. So that's why I geek out, and it's so cool. It's everybody's different. You would think, same retirees in the 60s, and both in their 60s, and similar situation, corporate jobs, and their desires are so different, and their situations are so different. And it's just,
I love that that's your niche, because I know I don't stay up to date with Social Security, and I don't have those tools and the projections and that kind of thing. So, I love that you have found your specialty and your expertise, and it ties so perfectly with who you are and what you love to do anyway. So it's just a perfect match. I love it.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the tools that got me started with, it was all about Financial Coach Academy is about how do you set up your business and get clients, right?
Yeah.
And then the second time I took it was because my first time through it was I got to figure out just how to start. I didn't have the website. and then 4 months later, I went through it again. And it's because now I was kind of ignoring some of this, not ignoring it, it's just it wasn't appropriate at that time. I wasn't at that stage. So I ended up going a second time just because I was like, okay, I figured the front part, thing, but now I'm trying to grow this. And
I love that we've had, a number of coaches that, have taken it a couple of times, and, the Academy, you get lifetime access to the content, but for some people, it's not the content, it's like the mentorship or the guidance. And it's like, okay, here's what I'm creating. Give me feedback on this now, and let me know, am I on the right track, or what adjustments should I make? Or here's what I like and don't like. How do I make it better? And just that, the brainstorming and the strategizing that can come when you're working with other financial coaches. I just think it's so much fun, which is why we've had so many people kind of either go into it twice or do the self-paced first and then the live second or something like that. So it's been awesome. I'm so glad that you joined us. Any other places that you want them to know? Just Financial Coaches Unite is the best place to reach out to you for sure. They can comment on this post because we'll tag you in it. Bill, thank you so much for sharing your expertise and all the love that you have for numbers and mathematical projections and turning a game into it. I think it's really valuable, and I hope others try and use a tool like this in their own business, because I think it can be a major, major game changer. So thank you so much.
And we need more financial coaches out there, even on the investment side. Spending is the number one problem. And so folks need help figuring it out and just get themselves out of debt. And not only that, those skills are used for the rest of their lives, right? So most of my job actually on ongoing is helping them manage their spending. Because if they manage their spending, then the investments they kind of happen on their own. So
I love it.
The work we're doing here at Financial Coach Academy is it's invaluable. So everybody keep it up.
Thank you. All right. Thanks, everybody.